Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy Hernandez, founder of the Retail Muse. Welcome to Store Wars NRF recap episode, part one. So last month here in New York City, where I'm sitting, NRF hosted over 40,000 people that came to New York to see the latest retail trends and connect with each other as a retail industry community. And some of us were actually spent a lot of our time out visiting shops, seeing retail in real life, and getting that take by actually experiencing things ourselves. So I decided, I had this idea since I would be debriefing with all of my retail expert friends anyway. I thought I'd invite all of you to join in and hear some of our recaps and what we thought worked well, what didn't work well. And so I invite you all to the party. So this is part one. There'll be three more episodes at least. So definitely stay tuned in the episode show notes. I'll put a link there if you want to see who else I'm going to be interviewing. But let's kick off with part one. It's going to be a bit of a spotlight on community focused retail, but also hearing the top five picks from two of my retail expert friends. So let's have them join us. I'll start off with uh, Matthew. Welcome. So this
Hello.
is Matthew Brown. He's a retail trend futurist and retail tour extraordinaire, and he's the founder of Echochamber. So welcome, Matthew. I mean, how many years have you been doing retail tours?
About 26 years now.
Oh, just
Yeah.
26.
Just 26 years. Yeah, I've seen an awful lot of shops in 26 years.
I can imagine. And then we have one more of our guests, and I'd like to welcome Jack Stratten. So, Jack, as you may have recognized him before from the very first Store Wars episode, welcome back. He's the head of trends for Insider Trends. And like Matthew, he hosts retail tours around the world and is a good friend. And I'm excited to have us back as a little bit of a reunion since we did do a tour together in New York City during NRF, one of Jack's tours for Insider Trends. So it's good to get the band back together, as well as seeing you both last week in London and in the
Yeah.
Cotswolds. Thank you, Matthew, for taking me around. I think we can do another episode just on that. It was really, really extraordinary. So welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Not at all. Nice to see you both.
All right. So as you know, at least Jack does that. I like to kick off episodes with a little bit of a game, just to get us warmed up. And so we're gonna do a bit of a lightning round. Even change the setting. um, so and little bit of a lightning round, NRF edition. I'm gonna, give you a bit of some prompts and just give your immediate answer. Don't overthink it. It's rapid fire. The first answer that pops into your head. All right, and I'll start with Matthew. That's okay.
Okay.
And then Jack. So okay, one word to describe NRF.
Big.
Jack.
Overwhelming.
Okay. All right. Favorite street or area to shop in New York?
Elizabeth Street,
Oh,
Nolita.
yes, my favorite too.
Oh, that's a good one. I was maybe going to go for the same. Let me go Bond Street with the addition of Gymshark there. It's quite fun.
Oh, nice. Okay. Um, okay. Who had I guess in your either recent visits to New York or in general, like like a cool first impression, either like a store window or an interesting welcome from a store employee? I guess did anything stand out recently?
I mean, I still think the Louis Vuitton unbelievable hoarding
Mm,
up at the top of Fifth Avenue is astonishing. I mean, it's not even retail; it's a building hoarding, and it's the most amazing thing in retail. It's kind of it was a highlight in 2025. It still looks amazing now. So, I mean, it's a new icon for New York.
yeah, that's a good one. I mean, it's definitely even in Christmas time, even though it was the second time around, it's just amazing how many people were photographing it during the holiday period. Jack?
Um, I think Pronton, I saw
Mm,
it in October and I still can't get over quite how beautiful it is, just the commitment. to every single corner of that store. It's astonishing. And also because of where it is, I guess. I think some
that's true.
people are like negative about that because it's slightly outside of the key shopping areas, but in a way it makes it all the more remarkable. You're just in the financial district right by Wall Street, and then suddenly there's this ludicrously beautiful store. It's yeah, amazing.
Yes, that's a good one. I think we may be discussing it later.
Very good.
um, um, all right. Best in-store tech example. Either good or bad, I guess.
Well, I mean, I actually really like the American Eagle, the interactive sort of art wall that was a sort of ticker tape thing. It sort of made a clattering sound. I wasn't entirely sure what it did, but I have to say, you know, when we took the group around, everyone, you know, even kind of staid middle-aged men were dancing in front of it and, you know, seeing it recreate. And I just thought, like, you know, fun piece of tech alongside all the kind of RFID activations. This was a bit kind of playful, and I thought, you know, it was nice. It kind of it engaged a corner that wouldn't have been used otherwise, and it kind of set a kind of nice playful anchor to the concept. So I thought that was good actually.
Yeah, I think it's the same. So the artist, I think it's in Rockefeller Center, like where the ice rink is. He has one, and then I think Travel Agency also has a piece like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, he
cool.
does. Funnily enough, so I really liked American Eagle, and we were, funnily enough, me and Matthew were watching that group of Brazilians sort of dancing in front of that little bit of artwork together. And it was, to be fair, it's not like I probably wouldn't have given it a second thought unless I then saw a load of people really enjoying it. And I thought, yeah, you know, you could be too cynical about these things, but actually they loved it. It really worked. So that was great. Funnily enough, I'm actually going to say travel agency, not for that, but because travel agency, through, you know, those really lovely intuitive screens and really well thought out kind of click and collect area, have like just a really smart kind of tech fueled cannabis shop. It's like they've made this little corner of retail that we think is a bit grubby and a bit backwards really slick through the way they've incorporated technology for pickup. So yeah, I'd go for travel agency, and I say specifically, I guess, the Soho store because that's the newer one, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's very, very sleek and minimal, but also, yeah, I like that
Yeah,
shop as well. Yeah.
yeah, they've used it really well. Yeah.
Okay, what shop in New York City is your happy place?
Go on, Jack. I have to have a think.
Or maybe not so happy
I know
place?
it's quick fire, but
I'm going to go Buck Mason in Soho.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken so many groups there, and I think the three of us know this only too well. Sometimes you can take too many groups to stores, you start to overstay your welcome, people find you a bit
Yeah.
annoying. Buck Mason was like the opposite. The more I went, the nicer they were, the more they remembered me. The guy who runs the coffee part at the front is like the nicest man in the world. And just all of them were just, there's something about the whole store is amazing. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. But just that welcoming feel every time I go in that store, they just seem to look at everything as a kind of positive opportunity. If they see a group of people, they're not worried about, is this going to, you know, mess up my conversion? They're just like, great, there's some more people to talk about Buck Mason too. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love that too, and I remember the barista, yeah, talking to you, and being actually so grateful that you're bringing so many people in, which is, I think the right way to look at it when we bring in groups into the spaces. I get it can be disruptive sometimes, but it's actually a good thing to improve
And I mean,
awareness. Yeah.
we'll talk more about it, I guess, but I'm
Mhm.
just so obsessed with it because he is like the most amazing example of merging hospitality and retail because he's an ambassador for Buck Mason, but he's also this great barista who is like making lots of coffees that people are paying for. But I noticed he's also looking for anyone that seems interested in buying something. He's about to like, you know, he kind of swoops in and goes, do you want a coffee? And just makes them a free coffee. So he clearly has been given license to sort of merge those two things. And he clearly knows a lot about Buck Mason and coffee. So the whole thing is just incredible.
Yeah. All right, Matthew.
well, I mean it's like asking who's your favorite child. It's kind of terrifying. New York City is filled with amazing
Well, it's
stores.
not
I
your
mean, a lot of
favorite,
the
a
time,
happy place, a happy place.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, from that question, what I'm kind of assuming is it's not the kind of the new store, because I'm always interested in what's new, but it's the
Mm.
stores I keep coming back
Yeah.
to, I suppose, would be the definition of happy place. And from a product perspective, I have to say the Meadows, the chocolate and salt shop, is just
Mm.
unbelievable. I mean, it's just a journey of discovery around chocolate and salt. And I spent an indecent amount of money on a jar of salt that was a truffle parmesan salt. And it's just the most unbelievably unique, delicious product. And it's just an example of absolute retail expertise, absolute focus on two core products and doing it in a way that you just won't find in any other store in the world. It's totally unique and it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a tiny, tiny, small independent. From a big perspective, I try to be cynical about the Starbucks roastery all the time because it's like, oh, well, it's not new and it's Starbucks and it's big corporate and, is it making money? But the truth is, every time I'm in the meatpacking district and I go in, it's just a great place. It's
Mm.
still got the energy. It's still got the theatre. I still really appreciate everything that they did around it. Um, and I still think it's probably better than, from my perspective, better than the Empire State version that's, slightly newer. I
Mm.
still think that meatpacking roastery is great. So, a happy place. If I'm in that area,
Yeah.
I'll always stop and have a coffee.
Yeah. Don't tell Jack about Starbucks.
Yeah, I love Starbucks Reserve as a retail concept. It's outstanding. I retain the right to say I hate Starbucks coffee. Starbucks Reserve Roastery, I'm with Matthew, is just an incredible concept, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, I think I've just gotten used to the taste. So, um, yeah.
It's not, look, I've said it before, everyone is allowed to like whatever coffee they like. That is your right, Sandy.
And I like the points or the stars.
Yeah, yeah. You can get points
That's
for
how
good
they
coffee
hook
as
you.
well. No, I'm
Yeah.
joking, I'm joking.
All right. So last one, rapid fire. Okay, London or New York?
London. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, the great thing is I don't have to choose. I get London and New York. I mean, I absolutely adore New York, but I'm a Londoner, so my heart is with London.
Yeah, I'll go London. I find New York more exciting because I've never lived there and because it means I get to go to New York, which felt like a dream when I was a kid. To work there regularly just feels still like a dream. But yeah, London, from a store tour perspective, the fact that you can kind of walk from one end of central London to the other in about half an hour and see every kind of retail concept you can imagine. I don't think you can do that in many places in the whole world.
Yeah. Well, both incredible cities. Obviously, I love London as well. But today's episode is going to switch gears to the best of New York. I thought we'd start first with each episode having a little bit of a spotlight on a trend or theme that we're seeing in retail. So one I think is a buzzword, but I like to dive in a little bit on it um, around community. So we see a lot of retailers using that term fast and loose. So how are you defining community, and like what does community mean to you in terms of physical retail? Would like to
Shall
start.
I answer that? I
Go for it,
know,
Matthew.
I know Jack's got some very strong thoughts on community, and I've heard you say it, Jack, and I'm kind of with you entirely. I suppose what I see a lot of is sort of tick box community, where people are doing things where they think that means community, but they're not wholeheartedly
Mhm.
actually engaging with it. I mean, I suppose my broadest definition of community is really where people start taking stage above product, and it's there's a spectrum of who's doing it, and obviously if you put people entirely at it and less product, well, maybe you don't have a retail store, but that would be the ultimate community thing. And it's kind of all of the different iterations around that, but essentially it's people focused, and it's either people focused in terms of the customers or it's people focused in terms of the staff. And I really like seeing things where retailers celebrate the staff themselves and make staff part of the community as well as customers.
Mhm.
On one level, it's kind of third space, the place where people want to hang out rather than transact all the time. That's for me, community. And then it enters into the world of sustainability and repair and resell, and all of those are aspects of community. But really, it basically comes down to people.
Yeah.
I
Jack?
love that, Matt. I really like Matthew's point about staff. It's overlooked a lot. It's actually probably much more meaningful in a weird way at the moment, given how overdone community as a kind of catch-all concept for a retailer trying to build any kind of group of followers. The staff part is almost more compelling to me. So that's a great point, Matthews. I don't think about enough myself. A brilliant point. I go back to something I've been banging on about for a while now. I'm quite obsessed with is that too many retailers talk too much about creating a community in this slightly patronizing way, like they go to London, like Nike or whoever is in London saying we're creating a community of runners. I think even Gymshark sometimes, as good as they are at it, fall foul of this a bit. We're creating a community and wherever. And it's like there are plenty of these communities that already exist that I think retailers and brands could sometimes do a better job of focusing on what they can do to support existing communities rather than pretending that they're creating ones that didn't exist. I've been a bit critical about Kith, I think, because I think Kith are an incredible brand in all kinds of ways. They're great stores, great proposition, but they talk a lot about community and their stores about community places, and then I see it and I don't get it, I don't feel it. I just see nice stores with great products, which is fine. I think that's a good thing, but they're desperate for it to be more, for the identity to be interwoven with these complex communities that exist wherever their stores are, and I think they need to be a bit more humble. So my problem, I think, is that sometimes it's a little patronizing, isn't humble enough, and I think that so my definition increasingly is somewhere closer to providing spaces or providing tools, resources, whatever, that can actually support communities that already exist, rather than inventing them, replacing them, whatever else.
Yeah, all great points. I think, while not all brands are like traditionally community-led retailers, but the ones that do, I think it's a strategic moat for your brand in terms of a differentiator and a protector of what makes you stand out. It goes hand in hand with your stores being the wall around your brand castle. So I think they both work together, and I think they're going to be increasingly important as more and more of the middle becomes the same, as you say. But I do, as you know, love well, maybe you don't know, but I do love a framework, and I thought about it. What could be, for a true like cult-like community, what that could be. And so here, this framework is really like tribes. So, togetherness, really that people have a space to be together. And obviously with retail and physical location, that makes sense. And then rituals, so people can actually participate in routines together. Identity, so people really feel like they are with like-minded people, and that being a part of this community says something about them, and like a badge in a way. And then belonging, so people feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. Engagement, so people are continually and consistently adding to the conversation. Really, here, like, the distinction is without the need for the brand at all, so it's kind of just stands alone by themselves, and can it be without the brand being involved at all. And then really the last one, the S, is like secrets. So it's kind of like, if and kind of things that you have um with each other, that it's a bit of a wink. So that's kind of just a little thought um, of what maybe like a cult-like community could be. Are there any cult-like communities that you're seeing? Because I've seen, like, for example, at least what we saw in New York, that, I mean, Gymshark kind of has that in the UK, but it's kind of still early days in New York. Um, but I also see it, like, for example, in Dossier, in terms of what they're bringing into the store. They really know their customer quite well, and they do collaborations and monthly drops um, with what that their customer considers a celebrity. So I think that's an example. I don't know if you've seen other other ones in your
Yeah,
New York
definitely. I
travels?
think so. I'd be interested in Matthew's. There are something when you were just saying that about the kind of tribes framework. A couple of things came to mind actually that I think a proper community has to have non-transactional elements. It's an obvious
Mhm.
point, but it has to be stuff that isn't about money. Um, and then also participation. So basically, there needs to be community is a two-way thing where people are actually doing things. I think that's my other frustration with a lot of communities is in reality, a community for some retailers really just looks like a bunch of customers who sometimes buy products. So I think
Yeah.
there's got to be kind of non-transactional activities. When I think along those lines, I think, there's some obvious examples. Tracksmith, the running brand, I think for a while have, open stores off the back of, how many people are in the Tracksmith running club in any given city. So the Tracksmith running club exists in a city, a bit like Bandit in New York. The running club is there. And then when the running club gets big enough, they start thinking about opening a store, which really acts as a kind of clubhouse. So the Tracksmith store on a Sunday just has 500 people outside it, whether it's in Boston or whatever. And when they finish their run, they go back to the Tracksmith store and they have a cup of coffee. And I think that's quite cool. I like those kinds of stories. And there's even smaller examples of it now. I've talked about them before, but Interval is a new independent running store in Edinburgh, which is just great. And it's a totally kind of organic running community. It's just runners in the area, and that's somewhere for them to hang out. So
Yeah.
yeah, those kind of I think running stores lend themselves well to this kind of thing. But I love that model that they're part of this running club, actively part of this community associated with the brand. But there's not any money being spent, but it's very active, and you're meeting people and you're doing stuff, and that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, my example, I mean, look, Rafa was always the brand that everyone talked about. They didn't have stores, they had cycle clubs. And I know, there's been issues with Rafa closing some of their stores. Actually, one of my favorite sort of Rafa-like examples is a tiny little cycling store in King's Cross, Cold Drops Yard called Via Atelier, which
Mm,
is a sort of department store of cycle brands with a coffee area. And what I love is, I'm often in there early, in the area early before things are kicking off. And what's lovely is you will see, a tribe of mammals, of middle-aged men in lycra,
Yeah.
turning up in their bikes and parking their bikes and standing outside, sipping a coffee very early morning. And this genuinely is, a tribe of enthusiasts, who are dressing that way. They're engaging. They have, I mean, it sums up almost all of those different elements that you said in tribes. This sort of secret community. They're driving it. It's not being driven
mm,
necessarily by the brand. There's a genuine enthusiasm there that the store itself is facilitating that, and it feels authentic, and it's been doing it for years now, and so
mm,
it has some longevity there, and I think that's a great example of a sort of tribe community.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that. And another thing that one of my favorite spaces, and I'm scared to say it because I don't want everyone to go there, but because it's a true gathering space and like a third space, which I still have a problem with that term because I feel like we're more and more losing the second space of work because a lot of us are working at home. So the which is bibliotech in which I think you've gone as well, Jack. But
mm.
it's kind of a space that in Soho that allows people to work during the day, coffee shop by day, with all these activities. In the evening, it turns into a wine bar and restaurant at night, transforms the space into a movie night. They have reading, I think maybe book clubs. I mean, and then also they happen to also sell books. So it's just kind of using the space to be in communities to enrich and connect people together through activities as well. I think those kinds of spaces, to me, we definitely need in our neighborhoods. Um, and then the last thing I would say is too, like that a couple of not now tech players are helping enable to turn, your real cult-like following into true, brand ambassadors and by redefining loyalty. So things like TYB, which was founded by the woman who founded Outdoor Voices, but it starts to create little challenges and identifies your most loyal customers for them to get rewarded in a way with unique experiences with you. So things like, giving product feedback or going to an event. So not just about, the old days of loyalty. So really identifying those true people that will drive that cult-like community for you. I think it's going to be with tools like that. I think it's really cool. I think what we're seeing.
Yeah, love it. I always, one tiny last thing, because I always feel
Yeah.
like I forget to say this, is that whenever this conversation comes up about sort of, great examples of community focused brand spaces, I always talk about running clubs, niche cycle clubs, niche motorbike clubs, whatever. And I think it kind of becomes a thing where you think, oh yeah, this is something for small sports related brands, right? Running or whatever. But I often say the example I cite at the moment is what IKEA are doing quite quietly through the IKEA family loyalty scheme,
Yeah.
which is, I think, the fastest growing loyalty scheme in the world, basically. But so much of the growth and so much of what they're doing, if you look at the IKEA family app and just look at what they're doing across different locations, it's like very little is to do with discounts, free delivery, stuff like that. It is all kinds of stuff. Like there, as many spaces around the world as they can, they're offering spaces to work for entrepreneurs. Like they're like, wherever your nearest IKEA is, come in, sign up to this thing, and you get free coffee, good internet, whatever. They are promoting, places to leave your kids to safely play somewhere for an hour or two while you have some lunch or work. They're promoting like workshops where you go in and learn how to upscale your IKEA cabinets in your kitchen or whatever. They're opening hubs where you can bring in your IKEA furniture and fix it or try and resell it somewhere else. And it's like, this is, one of the biggest retailers in the world who are trying to tap into exactly what we've just been talking about. So I just say that because I think big retailers need to be more creative in how they apply this Rafa Tracksmith stuff. It's people want this. They want this transactional stuff. They just need to be bolder, I think.
Yeah. Good points. Well, I mean, I feel like we can go into this discussion for ages, but we now have to get to the very main event, which is the interesting. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on what stood out to you in New York, even though it's second rate to London. What were the we're gonna go one by one, and you're gonna do a countdown of your top five. But before that, start off with something that a retail miss. So like what didn't necessarily work well, or either underwhelming or too hyped up. Um, in the goal of like what's a lesson that a retailer can take from that. So we'll start there, and we're gonna kick off with Mr. Brown. Matthew, you're gonna go first. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get you teed up, and we'll start first, with your the biggest retail miss first, and then I'll tee up your top five countdown.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I don't like to be negative about retail, and the truth is, look, I don't think Jack or I were suggesting that New York was in any way
I
second rate.
know. I'm
I
just
mean,
teasing.
I photographed 150 new or updated things this time, on top of what I photographed last time. So, I mean, there's always new things to see. I think one of the things that was kind of hyped up to me was Meadow Lane. As the food concept, and I'd heard there were teething issues with it. It's a very beautiful space, but I have to say I just didn't quite understand what it was. And I think given the huge competition that there is in food and the food excellence that's there, it just didn't quite hit in the same way. And funnily enough, I found another Gen Z style grocer, Happier Grocery, which is only a few yards down,
Yeah.
which I thought kind of hit the mark a little bit better on the basis that this is sort of food convenience that's about Instagrammability and having something cool to show for it. So it's all about the merch. And actually, I thought the merch was more fun at Happier
It's
Grocery.
more fun.
They had like proper work shirts with the Happier Grocery logo that I actually genuinely would wear and feel good about it. Whereas I didn't feel that Meadow Lane quite had the same thing. And I mean, in fairness, I didn't test out the very expensive ready meals that they had, but there didn't seem to be a huge amount else on offer, and so I just didn't quite understand what the hype was. And it kind of tied in a bit more, in the sense of not being a myth, but what I notice about all cities, but particularly about New York, is that areas sort of ebb and flow in terms of their creativity and fun. Um, and I think the pandemic hit New York hard, perhaps harder than maybe other cities, and certain areas that were really vibrant before feel like they're slightly lagging behind, of which, other than Meadow Lane, Tribeca, doesn't feel like it has the same charming energy that it did before, which is a pity because I love the area. And equally, the meatpacking district just feels over dominated by some luxury brands
Mm.
without having that energy that it did
Mm.
before. And I loved the Samsung 837 concept that was there, and clearly it didn't make any money, but it was a really wonderful anchor to the whole district. And it just feels a little bit like meatpacking uh, needs a little bit of energy and enthusiasm in. And one of the things about New York, rather than potentially London, is that London is a great city of ecosystems because they're so well and creatively managed by major landlords. And it doesn't feel as though there's that same overarching creative control that New York has. It feels a bit more like cutthroat, whoever's going to pay the rent, sort of it's much more evolutionary rather than, carefully crafted. So there's always an ebb and flow. But equally, Soho looking really good, so much energy, so many good things going on there. So, it's always a mixed picture.
Yeah. Yeah, fair points. Like we can probably talk about Meadow Lane for a while. And then a fair point about me packing. I would say also in the summer, there's definitely more of a spike in pop-ups and things to bring people around. But it has definitely heavily skewed towards luxury brands. And West Village is definitely popping up even more with um some of the DTC brands, and Bleecker Street
Mm.
is definitely very vibrant. But
Yeah,
yeah, great observations, Matthew. I'm going to take up your now load up the five, and then
okay,
we'll just start with number five. Here's the number five reveal.
great. Well, I was super chuffed about. I love Fish's Eddy. I've been visiting Fish's Eddy
Mm.
for about 20 odd years. It used to be the place to visit. And up in Flatiron, it was looking really busy. I've always loved its kind of crazy tone of voice. It's a merchandising paradise. The really nice news that they've opened a second location over in Dumbo. So as I've actually got the new and the old coming together. The new experience that they've done is obviously adding a coffee bar, but it's just the very best of retail, really, and it shows a constant sense of playful creativity. Um, the merchandising that looks kind of chaotic but is actually really carefully done. A lovely tone of voice. I love the fact that they've got the story behind the name of Fish's Eddy that you can see there. That this guy, Hiram Eddy or whatever, he's a lawyer who talked about his great grandfather who founded the little village of Fish's Eddy, and he tells the whole story, and it's been built into the brand. And it's just lovely to see that real retail highlight moving to a second location over in Dumbo. I was really chuffed to see that. So that's my number five. Number four, there we go. Well, look, Jack mentioned it. I just don't think you can talk about New York retail without talking about Printemps, the new outlet. Um, Whether this is ever going to make money, I have no idea. As Jack said, it's really out of the way in the sense of being right in the financial district on Wall Street. But my God, what a jewel of a store. I mean, it's really not a traditional department store in any meaningful way. It's much more of a kind of boutique, beautiful concept store experience. And what it really reminds me of is Takashimaya, which I absolutely loved on Fifth Avenue. It felt like this gentle secret that you discovered that was away from the bustle of Fifth Avenue, and that you could go and have this sort of serene Japanese experience. And this is the French version down in the financial district. Lots of hospitality linking it through. Absolutely crazy levels of design and materiality and playfulness, but again, really trying to rethink what each experience is in a kind of boudoir type of way. So, this mad beauty concept with a tunnel that goes through with futuristic, through into a spa, through into a champagne bar at the end. Lots of different kind of pop-up activations. As I said, hospitality running through each of the core areas. Absolutely beautiful. It's a store to just wonder, and very peaceful, a very nice, gentle shopping experience. It's not the kind of crowded, frantic, hectic New York experience. So, look, I put it at number 4. That's slightly arbitrarily, but wow, what a space. Definitely a must see. Number 3, this was an absolute highlight. I loved this store. I've never wanted to be a cowboy more than having seen the Tacoma store. I mean, it wasn't even on my radar before I'd arrived in New York. I heard about it, then went to visit it. I kind of thought it was going to be a bit of an afterthought, a kind of flagship around cowboy boots. Wow, every single touch point is fabulous. The design, the visual merchandising, the customer experience, really genuinely comfortable. Those leather sofas are insanely comfortable. A fully stocked beer and bourbon bar, the custom bar there where you're actually watching them do the little heat treatments and the customizing, the boot, the boot polishing area, and then the visual merchandising of the core product as well. This is an absolute masterclass in retail. It's a store that looks like it could have been there forever, but it's brand new. It looks like a brand that could have been 150 years old, but it's 10 years old. It just shows what you can do when you really have the energy and enthusiasm to create an experience. And they call this, I think, what do they call it? Radical hospitality is the theme that underpins the store. And it's just fabulous. Again, this is one of the reasons I say Soho's such a pleasure to walk. It's down a side street. You almost wouldn't know it's there. It doesn't announce itself hugely from the street. You just walk past and you kind of peer inside and see it. Absolute fabulous, fabulous retail. And as I said, I never wanted to be a cowboy so much as having walked into that store. Then number 2, this again. So this is a real hidden gem of an experience. And on one level, there's almost nothing to it. I mean, the capex on the store is very, very little. I was put onto it by a LinkedIn post from one of our other top retail experts. And it's reinventing vintage as a community storytelling example with a really charming use of technology as well at the same time. And so I met the founder when I was in there, Ksenia. She's an ex-Boston Consulting Group retail consultant. So she's actually putting her money where her mouth is and becoming a retailer herself. Fantastic to see people making that plunge into physical retail. And essentially what she does is she goes to grandma's, I think maybe out over in Long Island or New Jersey, and she buys up interesting pieces of clothes and wardrobe from them, whether that is really interesting vintage designer pieces, old pieces of memorabilia, and then she arranges the store as basically a journey through history of what fashion looks like through the decades. So that when you walk into the store, just written in little floor vinyls are the 1910s, the 1920s, the 1930s. It's a journey through the world of history of fashion, and every piece has point of sale with real photos of the real people who owned the product. And where you can see there, they've also used AI to pull together the real photos and create movies of the real people describing their lives and their histories and the product that they had. And I know, Sandy, you said that sounded a little bit spooky. I actually thought it was really charming. You can see the guy there, Alfred. And this is retail without a huge capex in design and VM. It's very simple, but it's incredibly charming. And I just thought, what a lovely example of retail innovation where technology is genuinely adding value to the experience, where there's a real connection with real people, where there's unique product, and just this, again, the playful, charming element of the grandma in pink that's put on on the window, and then of course the lovely element of the sign outside that says that you get a discount if you actually bring your grandmother with you to shop. Just fantastic, and it was such a lovely surprise. I stumbled across it, and it was a real highlight of great retail. So that brings me to number 1. It's the obvious choice. It was massive in all of the kind of LinkedIn press before I arrived. Everyone was talking about the opening of the new Nespresso flagship. Um, I obviously went to visit it. I got in at kind of 9:59 just before it opened so that I could get the clear shots that you're seeing there. It was really busy within minutes of it opening. And what was interesting was it was the retail elements that were busy, people coming in and actually buying the capsules, but also engaging with it. I just thought this was a just fantastic example of design, activation, community, storytelling. Nespresso have really been turning up the volume on their retail experiences over the past year or so. I love the Maison Nespresso in Paris, in Marais, which is again a really gentle approach. They're doing something unique and distinctive in every location, but this one in Flatiron is the biggest. It's kind of the boldest on one level. It is a huge visual statement, fantastic storytelling, amazing design, combining in with the retail architecture of a listed heritage building. But it's actually the little gentle, also dare I say, community touches that really make it work. So you've got this artisan coffee sort of staff bar at the front, but then what I thought was lovely there, you can see, is down in the basement, this basically secret lounge where they're just not selling to you at all. You can make yourself a free cup of coffee. You can sit there on a comfy sofa for as long as you like. And Jack, we sat there for half an hour and had a chat, and it was just wonderful and comfy and welcoming. And I also love the fact that behind the curtain that you can see there, after 5 o'clock, a door opens into another secret room with a speakeasy experience, where they do coffee forward mocktails. I think it's a pity they're not doing actual cocktails. But again, activating new types of experience, really moving to people beyond product, creating this kind of third space experience. Absolutely fabulous. I have to say, I have no hesitation in putting that at number one for this year. So there you go. That's my top five.
Lovely. And Matthew, I mean, you're a great photographer, and those are your actual photographs of the Nespresso store, and it still doesn't do the store justice. Like when you're actually there in person, it's just breathtaking. In my opinion, just the design is incredible. Um, and great choices, by the way.
Thank you.
Even and then the comment too on the grandma does it better. The only thing is I did find the little AI video creepy, but the actual storytelling in the store is, I think it's quite a very good idea. Um, and even though there's a tech component, it's still analog, so it's great.
Yeah. And I forgot to say, actually, on the point of sale, obviously they got the name of the person who owned the product, vintage photos, real photos of them, but then a lovely thing that says, when did I first wear this dress? It was like, riding a Vespa in Italy in summer in 48 or something. It's just really just lovely and gentle and cheap and easy to do. In terms of, when people are saying, how can we create a really innovative retail experience? The great news is you don't need mega Nespresso budgets. You can do it on a shoestring. You can do it with that passion and conviction and a little bit of creativity, and you can create something equally charming. And it's, that for me is a real positive in terms of, what you can take out of this as a retailer.
Yeah, amazing. And the Nespresso, for anyone that wants to find out more, I'll have the head of retail on next Thursday. So, get your questions ready if you want to ask any. So I'm excited for that conversation because it's definitely been a fan favorite amongst the experts, but also just, New Yorkers. It's every time I go in there, it's so full of people. So looking forward to that. So now I know we're now moving on to Jack. Are you ready for
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, so let's start with your first, like what was your opinion of a retail miss?
Um, I'll say I'm just like Matthew. I'm not really in the business of being critical of anyone, but there's one retailer really in the middle of Soho that I think we can all be critical of. That's the Los Angeles apparel
Oh
store.
yeah.
Didn't actually go in there, walk past it. I've talked about this before. I say that's a bit of a miss just on a Matthew, I think, has sort of touched on this point earlier. it's almost a miss on a bigger scale, on a kind of local government level. I know this sounds silly, but I just think it's a really bad look for Broadway. I just think it's awful. There's one store on
Agree.
Broadway
Yeah.
with a person's face on the banner outside, and that person's face happens to be, the disgraced founder of another business that he's, American Apparel, that he's now opened Los Angeles Apparel, and he's so certain of his innocence despite being proven guilty and all kinds of dreadful things that he's done. And his face is on the outside of that store, bang in the middle of Broadway. I think it's dreadful. It's a bad look, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, the complexity. Look, landlords have just taken the money. I get it, but I really think Broadway in other ways, Broadway is doing really well. I thought there's some great new stuff. I like Crocs. Buck Mason is fantastic. H&M are still doing a good job at their flagship. American Eagle have upgraded theirs. Banana Republic looks great. I mean, all the way along, Broadway is kind of premiumizing, looking good. I think it's a real shame that that's like that. So yeah, for me, that's a miss, but on a slightly bigger level.
Yeah, agree. Right. Ready for your 5?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Number 5.
Okay, number 5, Sandy, very much owe finding out about this to you, and appreciate you introducing me to it. I like Wine Enthusiast very much as a concept. So this is a store from the Wine Enthusiast, which is a magazine for wine enthusiasts, and they kind of sell in this store everything other than wine. So it's wine accessories, coolers, furniture, corkscrews, glassware, whatever. But the real thing that fascinated me was that this is one of many stores powered by Leap. Leap being this kind of this business that takes online brands into the offline world. So they provide spaces, but they actually are kind of a proper turnkey solution. So they provide the space, Leap, for these brands, but they also do the staffing, do the payments. They have a partnership with Shopify, which is so smart from both the point of view of Leap and Shopify. But the staffing point was fascinating, because in Wine Enthusiast, they were saying that some people who work in Wine Enthusiast might also sometimes double up on a shift for a brand kind of around the corner. So the staff member ends up getting experience of 2 or 3 different retailers at the same time, but also Wine Enthusiast or another Leap partner might be able to very quickly cover for short notice gaps in their staffing. Look, all over the world I've seen over the years, no doubt Matthew has, and you have, Sandy, different variations of the kind of the pop-up model. I've never seen one quite as comprehensive as Leap, and they seem to have some real energy. There were a lot of brands using Leap. Lisette in the West Village I went to buy something for my wife, and that was great. Frankie's Bikinis, lots of little stores who've come from online, and Leap, I just guess, seemed like a no-brainer. They have the spaces. They can find staff that are impossible otherwise to find, that are ready to go, really experienced. They do everything, the payments. They have partnerships with other technology companies that they can use in the space. Just thought it was great. And Leap as a company, I think, are one to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw either Leap or a similar business doing what they do beyond the US and maybe moving into Europe. 113 Spring, massive surprise for me. I'd read about it before, and I know I'd spoken to you a bit about Sandy, but hadn't been in there, but it just sounded fascinating, the description. So it's kind of suggested it was a sort of a quite high concept kind of wellness space that blurs the boundary between sort of hospitality and products and experiences. But sometimes these kinds of PR pitches, as we all know, can end up feeling a bit hollow, and you kind of go in there and you think, what is this? 113 Spring was just absolutely delightful. It looked great, but it kind of didn't matter that when you walked in, you didn't really know what it was, because the staff are incredible, but more importantly, are incentivized to not try and sell you stuff. They're incentivized to just tell you the story of the space. So it's like, sit down in this beautiful space and let's talk to you about what this is. And it's a kind of multi-themed wellness space. They sell a constantly changing creation of products. They do some super healthy in-store food and drinks. They have a perfume that you can make in a kind of AI-fueled algorithmic perfume machine, which interestingly is the same one that's used by the fragrance store in London. But it was just an incredibly lovely space to sit down in for half an hour. It looked beautiful, and the staff were fantastic, and it was like a lovely little break from the madness of Soho, New York. And it did deliver. I think for once, some of these strange high concept spaces can be a bit underwhelming, but actually this really was interesting and compelling. I loved it. And I almost like the fact that it's difficult for me to totally explain what it is, because I think that's sort of the point. I think this is one of those spaces that you'll discover kind of by accident. If you live in New York, you'll go in there and think, what is that? And you'll come out an hour later and love it and want to go back. And that's a lovely thing.
And also a good community space, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love 113 Spring. Buck Mason, we've touched on a couple of times. Look, a lot of, there we go. Buck Mason is like, look, how many brands do we all know over the years, over Matthew's 26 years of doing this, my 15, of like going into retail stores and you're told, there's coffee in this store or there's some seating areas. And the coffee just seems an afterthought and it doesn't really fit with the rest of the store. And the seating areas are kind of similar and no one actually sits down. Now, the thing about Buck Mason is every single time I've ever been in there, and actually it's very hard to take photos like the one here where people aren't sat down, is that they haven't got beautiful looking sofas. Like they've got beaten up sofas. They've got old record players. They've got a proper excellent coffee area right at the front of the store. They're not doing this stuff for show. Buck Mason here have created a space where they want people to drink coffee and they want people to sit down. They're committed to that idea. And that feeds into the merchandising. So also, the records and everything are kind of a little bit wonky. Like they're not beautifully presented. They're old, carefully curated secondhand records that are placed like they would be in your own home. There's a sense that this is a little bit like your own home, a place you actually would spend time in. Feels real and authentic. It's just an unbelievably comfortable, welcoming space, and really kind of has a strong sense of identity, this sort of 60s, 70s Americana vibe that is at the heart of the brand and their clothes, just screams that in this space, and therefore differentiates them in what is a really congested bit of the market that they're in. Buck Mason feel quite distinct because of spaces like this. It is just beautifully done, and do you know what? It doesn't feel like a massively big budget makeover, this one. It's actually just really thoughtfully done. It's a lot of wood, a lot of secondhand furniture. It's just brilliant merchandising, brilliant design, and real kind of thoughtful, passionate enthusiasm into every single corner of the space. Loved it. Boy smells. Look, I just think the fragrance industry is incredibly boring. I think most of the fragrance industry is one giant golden looking airport lounge, dominated by the same old brands, frequented by the same old companies. I loved Boy Smells because I didn't know what it was, and I walked past it, and the color, the tone, the copy, what they were doing inside was really, really funny. So we went inside, and they have this kind of these sorts of mirrors with circles cut into them. Through the circles, you see these little videos playing, quite provocative kind of videos. And if you stick your nose into the circle shape, you can smell the different fragrances. It was really funny, really strange, completely memorable. You couldn't help but start asking questions and want to learn more about this brand, because the store wasn't big, there wasn't too much to it, but my God, it was so immediately arresting and provocative. I immediately have gone away and started looking up about them, what they do, who their customer is. And everyone I talk to has it has a similar effect, whether they buy from them or not. It's so memorable. I just think it's a brand and an experience that's sort of badly needed in fragrance, because a lot of fragrance, honestly, I think is kind of doing variations of the same thing. This was fun. You know what? It's funny. It actually is funny. And I think, perfume and fragrance, they're afraid to be funny most of the time. They take themselves too seriously. And this is a brand that wasn't at all. So I really enjoyed it.
And also powered by Leap.
Powered by Leap again, exactly. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, they're and actually it's a really good point. This is sort of what's so great about Leap is I think they are getting these kinds of really fun, exciting brands into physical that bit quicker than if they'd have done it on their own.
All right, you have about 1 minute on this last one.
Nice to Tecovas. Well, look, Matthew covered this beautifully. I loved it for so many reasons. I'm going to say two things. affordable luxury. There is nothing more important in mass market fashion at the moment than affordable luxury. That feeling of you go through the store or you go on through the website, wherever you are, and you are pleasantly surprised by how affordable the product is because the experience feels premium and good and special. That's what happens in Tecovas. Everyone I was with, you walk around, it is amazing, it's beautiful. There's this stunning whiskey bar right in the middle, and the staff are extraordinary. And then you look at the products and you go, oh, that's quite a bit cheaper than I thought that it would be. That's total magic in a saturated market that we now live in retail. So affordable luxury. And the other thing is also, as a result of this saturated market, I think cultural identity, distinct cultural identity, is so important for customers who are just overloaded with choices. Tecovas actually, beyond the cowboy boots, they make a lot of jackets, shirts, t-shirts, jeans that look a lot like a lot of other brands and retailers. But Tecovas, after you go here, has this attachment to this strong cowboy culture and identity. They deliver that brilliantly. And that's really important because a lot of fashion retail is very similar when it's just one product versus another. Tecovas are using this store to add that cultural identity, which is unbelievably important.
Love it. I mean, all these amazing brand stories, even though you only had one overlap, you
Mm.
all picked, such great examples of retail today, and the new stories we were able to, share with the people that came on tours. So thank you for sharing. And just because I know we have to wrap, I did want to leave, the audience with one piece of advice, or takeaway for 2026. I mean, if you were to offer retailers one piece of advice for this year, what would it be based off of, some of the things you've been seeing?
I'm happy to go first, Matthew, if you want.
Yeah.
So I will say something I kind of said when I got asked at the end of 2025 for 2026 stuff. I'm going to try and stick to my line, which is that I think unless you are, and I don't think many people will be listening to this or watching it, unless you are in the tiny handful of giant marketplace type businesses that are the biggest retailers in the world, and therefore you can win on price, convenience, or range. Unless you're one of those businesses, forget that. Just almost ignore that race to the bottom. You need to double down on something else. Even if you think you're quite a mass market brand, I look at mass market brands, even in New York, like American Eagle and like Gap and like H&M, that are all trying to premiumize, trying to become a bit more distinct in some ways. My advice is to the vast majority of brands is really double down on the quality of your products, the quality of your stores, the depth of your stories associated with them, because you've got to win on something else other than price or convenience or range, because that is a battle you're not going to win. That's being won elsewhere and it's outside of your control.
Great.
Yeah.
Well
I
said.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, funnily enough, this premiumization of the mid-market is really accelerating. This is a trend that I sort of first talked about back in sort of 2006. I called it the push for posh. And it accelerates at different rate, at different rates, but it's absolutely re-accelerating now. And as I always say, it's not a luxury trend. It's a trend that starts at the bottom of the market. And when you've got people like Primark or Uniqlo or Zara, which isn't quite the bottom of the market, but they're designing stores and opening stores that are jaw-droppingly premium looking, it puts pressure on absolutely everyone else. So there is a renewed focus on amazing, affordable luxury experiences. But I also, I like to use the example of Grandma Does It Better, that actually the real thing about succeeding in retail is about having a sense of purpose, a sense of creativity, a passion, and communicating that in every little touch point that you do. And when you're using technology, if you're going to use technology, make sure that it adds value to the shopping experience. Don't do it just for the sake of it. People aren't interested in tech for tech's sake. Make it do something that you couldn't get otherwise. Make it enhance the physical experience, and that's where it genuinely works.
Great point. And tomorrow's episode is going to be about tech. So great tee up for that. But thank you so much. Great wise words from the two of you and great observations. And thank you for sharing, what you found was what stood out for you in NRF and in New York City. Matthew, Jack, thank you again for your time, and definitely follow them on LinkedIn and anywhere else, but I think LinkedIn is your main platform. Definitely follow them, and I'll see all of you on the next Store Wars episode. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.